energetic, passionate, and savvy. Gouche Live. Brought to you by the good people at the Hockey News and Sports Illustrated. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the Gouche.
Yes, it is. What a great day. It is Gouche Live right here in Whistler, BC. I have had an amazing day, and I've got two gentlemen that are coming up that we had a press conference today, second to none. It was unbelievable to hear the history of the World Hockey Association. Of course, Peter Young and our good friend Greg Beaudin will be coming up in a second. I just want to tell everybody, you do not want to miss this. You're going to see the website. It's coming up in a few minutes. You're going to hear stories about what we did today here in Whistler. And I'm outdoor on my deck. Yes, on my deck with the mountains right behind me. You can't see them, but I will be skiing here one day. Well, maybe not, but it is absolutely amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here they are. Greg Beaudin, Peter Young.
Hey, how are you doing there, buddy? You okay on that deck?
I'm hoping it doesn't fall. Nope, everything's good right now. Listen, we had a couple little bit of email issues trying to get everything out to you. You're here, you're live. We are in Whistler. Peter Young, former WHA play-by-play and also the director of the World Hockey Alliance, which is fantastic. And of course, Greg, you are the man that brought us all together, making this come together with obviously the organization of the WHA 50th anniversary. And we're here to talk about it. Peter, you were the host with the most. You were fantastic today.
Hey, we had fun today, didn't we? It was so great to see so many people from the city councilor that came out and joined us, as well as Jocelyn from the Delta Hotel, our host hotel for the alumni. All kinds of support in this village. I guess I keep calling it a city. They keep calling it a village. But, man, it's so beautiful here. It's the first time I've been here, and I hope we have to have a lot of meetings here because I want to come back already.
Well, I can't wait to ski and golf on the same day. Hey, listen, of course, where were you in 72? Greg, I don't think you were old enough to remember it, but it was when the WHA formed, and it is a historic moment. And you and Peter, along with a cast of crew of many, will be bringing this live to Whistler. Talk to us about that.
Well, I mean, thanks for having us here, Gouche, on your show. It was a great press conference today, and the support from Whistler is going to be amazing to get everybody here, and all the alumni, the players that played in the World Hockey Association, and their families, like all the wives and the children of the players and the trainers of the teams. Like we had Scotty McVicker, the trainer for the Winnipeg Jets, was here today, and some of the owners will be here in Whistler. The whole fraternity of the World Hockey Association will be on hand, and we'll get to celebrate an amazing era in ice hockey.
Well, right behind me, look at this. It is the Longhorn Saloon and Grill. That's where today. It was amazing. The food was great. The beer was great. The people were great. And I know, Peter, you had some extra special guests, and I see one lurking behind Greg. We'll talk to Mr. Norm Beaudin, the original Jet, in a second. But, Peter, who did we have come out today? It was absolutely incredible to hear them speak. The love of Whistler and, of course, the love of the WHA.
Well, Normie was the star of the show. Of course, he played back in the first year. He was the original Jet, first player signed by the Jets, and actually, Bobby Hall got to skate on Norm's line, not the other way around. And they were pretty good, along with Pepe Bortolo. And eventually, in one season, each of them scored 100 points, which is sort of unheard of. So Normie had them eaten out of his hand at the press conference today, and then of course after that we had Scotty McVicker, who lives, I'm not going to say close by it, but lives on the island, and was one of those lucky enough not to be hampered by the flooding and was able to get to the ferry terminal. Came over, and he was the original Jets trainer in 1972. He brought a scrapbook of stories out of the Free Press and the Tribune back in those days from Winnipeg that were mind-boggling, and one even had a Whistler connection, which Greg can address later. But just an incredible. And he even brought a red puck. The first year of the WHA 50 years ago, they experimented with using red pucks. Thankfully, they decided not to after Joe Daly almost got killed in practice one day after Bobby ripped a slap shot. So,
Of course.
it was great. And then, Ken Gillis from the city, he was just spectacular. He's represented the mayor, and he's on city council, and he's also on the tourism board. So he's, instrumental in helping us organize events for this weekend in October 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th, next October, obviously. And that'll be exactly 50 years. And, we can hardly wait to see how many alumni, including owners, general managers, executives, trainers, stick boys, referees, they all show up for this event. It's going to be spectacular.
Well, there's no question. It was an incredible event here at Longhorn Saloon and Grill. They put on a spread. They put on an incredible show for us and made us feel real comfortable. I want to shout out to Marty Robbins from the Fired Up Network, who is helping us put this all together. Great stuff, Gooch. All the shows now off your balcony. I love it. Hey, listen, talk to us a little bit just before we get Norm Beaudin, of course, the original Jet Up. Peter, I know Tim was there, and what a great guy. He's from Winnipeg. He's a hometown boy. We're all from Winnipeg here, so we're all one big happy family. Peter, talk to us about what they did for us today.
Well, Tim Koschel has been a friend for years and years. Back from Winnipeg days, he ran a couple of restaurants and bars in Winnipeg, a nightclub, and pretty good athlete himself back in the day. And, he has been here in Whistler so long that many people think he is the mayor. And, he just knows everybody, and he runs, I think it's like 17 restaurants and bars. Just an incredible, organized individual who I couldn't do what he does. It is just amazing what he puts in one day. And everywhere we walked in the village in the last 3 days, you think you're walking with Bobby Hull, for crying out loud. Everybody stops and wants to talk to Tim.
Yeah.
And he knows everybody by first name, and it's crazy. It's one of those things that he's just a great guy.
Well, Peter, as you know, I owned a bar in Winnipeg called Fridays back in the day, and I can tell you, when it's hot.
Greg wanted more lights. Is that?
Oh, you look great. You look great. Hey, the mountains are right behind me. We're going to go on a hike tomorrow morning. You guys, a 50-kilometer hike. I think the only one that could do this now is probably Norm. I was just going to say, running a bar in a popular place like this, you are the mayor, because it's the only way you can get into one of these places. Hey, Greg, let's go to you. Derek Luck is popping on and saying Norm was a god. No, Norm is a god. Let's talk about your days in the WHA. Some of the players, obviously, that you played with. I know there's Andre Lacroix, Mark Tardif, Bobby Hull, of course, whom you played with, Gordie Howe. A lot of people kind of forget that Gordie Howe played in the WHA. And another big name I just found out today, I don't know why I didn't know this, Davey Keon.
Yeah, Dave Keon played with the Minnesota Fighting Saints, and he certainly was a big asset. Of course, coming from the Toronto Maple Leafs, and created all kinds of records with the Leafs, and so he was a big addition to the WHA and the Minnesota Fighting Saints. And of course, if you watch Dave Keon play, he was a great penalty killer, and he played the power play. So he was an all-around hockey player, and he certainly made the Minnesota Fighting Saints a viable organization.
Well, of course, while we're here, there are a lot of activities that we're doing tonight. We're going to dinner and talking about all the great things. We were on the phone, you and I, Peter, with Jeff Carlson, talking about the involvement of the Hanson brothers, or specifically the Slapshot crew. My very good friend Yvonne Barrette, Danny Lemieux from the movie, will be with us. We know that Jeff will be coming, and Dave Hanson. We're not sure about Steve. We send all of our thoughts and prayers as he battles cancer. But it's not just going to be an event of events. It is going to be a hockey spectacular. Talk to us, Peter, about some of the things that are planned here for Whistler.
Well, we're going to start it off on the Thursday of that weekend. Obviously, it's a welcoming in day for alumni. We've exclusively got the Delta Suites Hotel for alumni members and their family. And then we have a number of other properties in the village for fans. We have breakout events where the fans can meet the players. So starting that very first night, each individual team from the original WHA, whether they played one game or 7 seasons, each individual team will have a designated fan zone at one of Gibbons, Whistler, or Tim Koshel's establishments. So, for example, Quebec Nordique House could be Tapley's, and the Winnipeg Jets could be Longhorn. And those establishments will be all decked out in the logos of those teams with special tributes to their players running on the video screens, and fans can mingle with the players at will, get autographs, basically just chat with them about the good old days. Each team will probably have their own private hospitality suite in their various locations, but this meet and greet the first night and the second night, the Friday night, will all be open to the public. Everybody can come, and on that first night, the Thursday night, we'll be having a free concert. We're negotiating with the city now to use the same venue that they had for the Olympics.
Wow.
And where they presented the medals, where John Montgomery from Manitoba won the gold medal for Canada and was seen chugging the beer. In fact, I'm going to practice that tonight. Maybe you want to join me.
We'll take, you know what, Peter, we'll take a video of that. Hey, I want to come back to you, Greg, if you don't mind. I know we're going to, Norm. Let's talk about some of the other players like Anders Hedberg, Ulf Nielsen, Wayne Gretzky. A lot of people forget about that. And of course, Mark Messier. Talk to us about some of the other stars that we didn't expect to be coming from the National Hockey League, but joining a league that certainly rivaled any league or any pro league around the world, and of course the NHL.
Well, you had Mark Cardiff went to the Quebec Nordiques, and Rajan Houle, and there's a bunch of players, and of course Andre Lacroix, who led the league throughout the 7 years of the WHA. And he led the league in points, and that's quite a feat for a guy that played also in the NHL, and he came to the WHA and was a spectacular player, and he certainly added a lot of fun and enjoyment to the hockey fans of cities like Winnipeg, Quebec.
Yeah.
And you name it, he did it. That's for sure.
Well, Norm, you introduced me to Andre. I've had him on the show a couple of times. I know over the next, until October 2022, I know Peter and I will be interviewing a bunch of the players that have played in the World Hockey Association. Andre Lacroix, for example, 500 games played, 251 goals, 547 assists for 798 points. And right behind him was Mark Tardif, 446 games, 316 goals, 350 assists for 666. And here's your friend. You played with him on a line. Third overall was Bobby Hull, 411 games, 303 goals, 335 assists for 638 points. Those are big numbers. I know you played one season on the line. Talk to us a little bit about playing with Bobby Hull and the boys.
Well, I never thought I'd ever play with Bobby Hull, and all of a sudden I'm on the same line, and and we created one of the greatest lines in the WHA from the beginning of the first season. And of course you had guys like Anders Hedberg and Ulf Nielsen, who eventually came on the line with the hotline, which was Bobby Hull and Hedberg and Nielsen. They were fantastic, and they created a lot of great plays, scored some fantastic goals, and had the fans just mesmerized the way they played hockey, the way they passed the puck. And of course, myself playing with Bobby Hull, I knew where to go and I knew who to give it to, because you give it to Bobby. And of course, he used to set up the goaltenders. The first shot was high, and of course then the goalies were scared to death. And of course the second shot, when he came in on the left wing, he shot low and of course scored, and probably scored the hat tricks like that. And I remember him shooting against Roger Crozier. I mean, he had him all like just scared to death. And that's how he used to score on Roger Crozier when he played against the Red Wings, and when Roger was with the Red Wings. So that that's what he did with the goaltenders. And no matter what, Bobby was the ultimate hard worker. He never shirked his duty in practice. It was fun to practice with him because he worked hard, and he didn't loaf around. Every time he made a play or went especially down the wing, he went all out. And that was the great thing about Bobby. When you practice hard just like you would in the game.
Hey, Peter, obviously he was talking about our friend Crozier and Bobby Hull. He looked a little bit like Denny Lemieux in the movie Slapshot. Remember when he came in, he was that's what Bobby Hull reminded me of. He scared everybody and anybody. Hey, Norm, I know we're going to get Greg back on here. I can't thank you enough. You are a legend. You are a god. You're the first original Jet, and you have helped all of us make this happen. We can't thank you enough, Norm Beaudin.
Well, thanks for the great day. And, again, Whistler is a place to come. And I beg all the Winnipeg fans who are great fans to come to Whistler in 2022. It's a great venue and they'll love it. There'll be so much happening.
Can't wait to see all the Winnebagos here. Hey, Peter, I know Greg's going to come back up here again in a few minutes. You were not only the play-by-play at WHA, the World Hockey Association, but you've been involved in the game for a long time. Give us your impression of what the WHA meant in history and name some of the people that actually made it happen.
Well, it was originally founded by Dennis Murphy and Gary Davidson back in 1972. I didn't become involved until 1974 when I moved to Winnipeg and was fortunate enough to broadcast the WHA Jets that season, the first season I arrived in Winnipeg. But, when Bobby decided to, and I know you have a couple of the great interviews that you can run from time to time, the one that, that I did with Bobby in Chicago in 2007 that's on WHA Chronicles, which is a 6-hour documentary on the WHA that was produced out of Toronto, and I was fortunate enough to narrate it and do the interviews for it. And Bobby says some things that I'd never heard before, and I'd known him since 1974. We broadcast games together when he was retired. He did CTV broadcasts with me of the Pure Later Cup and the Canadian Bantam Championships. I ran a hockey school with him up in Nipawa that my good buddy Grant Kennedy set up. That was basically a rodeo type hockey camp where the kids learned riding and bull roping in the morning and skated in the afternoon. So, Bobby and I go back a long way, but I heard stories from him that in this interview that I couldn't believe that, for example, he was the one that suggested to Clarence Campbell back in 1970 that they organized a tournament against the Russians, and Campbell told him it was crazy. And yet 2 years later, the Summit Series was held and Bobby wasn't allowed to play because Bobby had signed $1 million contract with the Winnipeg Jets. And the story there is that $1 million contract today would be equivalent to like about 50 million today in today's dollars. But Bobby, when he jumped, it changed hockey completely, especially the salary structure. Up till the time that Bobby challenged and won a federal lawsuit that would negate the reserve clause, players were stuck for life with the team that signed them, and they took what they were offered. In other words, Gordie Howe, for example, played for $6,000 a year, which would be equivalent today to about $750,000 for one of the greatest players that ever put on skates. And so when Jug Higginbotham ruled in the players' favor, basically in Bobby's favor, it changed hockey forever, because all of a sudden players were free after they became free agents to go wherever they wanted. If that was the WHA, so be it, where they made triple or quadruple the money they were making in the NHL. And then, the flip side of that is to keep players, the NHL were forced to double, triple, or quadruple salaries to keep players from jumping to the WHA. And
Right.
so it changed hockey forever, which is why, there's times that I've been with Bobby in recent years when younger players still come up to him and thank him very much for what he did to make them multimillionaires today.
Yeah. Well, and listen, obviously it's the World Hockey Association 50th anniversary coming up. You guys designed an incredible logo. I'm very blessed that I've got one of the hoodies. Here's the logo. It looks amazing, guys. The World Hockey Association 50th anniversary, 1972 to 79, and it will happen here in Whistler. Greg, talk to us a little bit about, just before we wrap up, Peter and I, talk to us about some of the other events that will happen around this historic, and let's underline it, historic event.
Well, we're gonna tap into all the incredible venues up in Whistler. We're gonna have a golf tournament either at the Chateau Whistler or Whistler Golf Club, so that'll be a charity golf event. We're looking at setting up some floorball hockey rinks outside the Longhorn for some fan interaction with some of the alumni players, where they can step into a floorball rink and play some ball hockey with their heroes. We've got some incredible entertainment lined up on the center stage by the Olympic rings. So there'll be an art exhibit. So imagine incredible, colorful World Hockey Association logos and memorabilia items in conjunction with a new digital art collectibles exhibit that we're coordinating. So there's going to be art exhibits, golf tournaments, some floorball hockey games. We may hit the ice if we can get enough players to lace up the skates. We talked to some of the local hockey reps from Whistler Minor Hockey Association, and they're like keen to get some of their heroes at the rink here in Whistler. And so hiking, exploring Whistler, the nightlife. It's going to be great. Maybe a bubble hockey tournament. Someone was mentioning that. That would be a ton of fun. Karaoke nights. Gibbons Whistler, which is one of our main sponsors here, and our gracious hosts for this announcement. They have Whistler, everything dialed in here. They have pubs, they have restaurants, they have dance clubs, they have, Buffalo Bills and Garfinkel's, nightlife. So there's going to be just tons of stuff to do.
Well, you and I, Greg, along with Peter and Norm, I don't know how long Peter and Norm can hang with us tonight. We're going to check out some of those nightclubs and see what they're all about. Don't forget, Greg, 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, we're meeting at the base of the mountain. We're climbing it.
Yeah.
All right, buddy.
Yeah,
We'll see you
I
later.
want to see that happen. There's like 2 chances of that.
Yeah, 0 and none. All right.
That ain't happening.
Thanks, Greg. We'll see you at supper. Hey, Peter, talk about that. You and I climbing a mountain. Listen, we've climbed a lot of mountains in our life. Peter, obviously, this doesn't happen with without the great support. When Greg first approached me, I'm honored. I got to tell you, the cast and crew that I saw in the room this afternoon, it was just absolutely amazing. Obviously, hanging with Norm, one of the nicest human beings on the planet, and that's what I found from the WHA days. They were just so humble and they were so passionate, and they still have that. Dave Hansen, for example. His history, but I get to hang with him, and he's just like a normal guy. He just makes you feel real comfortable. But it doesn't happen without great people behind the scenes. You and Greg have been at the front of this. You brought in some great people. Talk to us about those people, and of course, can't do without sponsors.
Well, we started this off thinking that the event could be held in Vegas, and after about 2 months of batting heads with casinos and resorts and trying to get dates solidified, it became obvious that we'd be a little tiny fish in a huge pond in Vegas, and casinos didn't even want to start looking at booking blocks of rooms until they got next year's NHL and NFL schedules. And I can sort of see that because it fills the resorts with guys who spend a lot of money at the tables, and that's obviously what they're in business for. So it became fairly clear that it was going to be a tough climb in Vegas. And I was meeting out at the lake with a good friend, Jeff Kirbyson, who you have to get on. Jeff Kirbyson is a former sports writer for the Winnipeg Free Press, who organized two of the most successful reunions that I've ever been involved in. The reunion of the 40th reunion of the second Jets Avco Cup team, and then the 40th reunion the year later of the final Avco Cup team. And, Bobby Ilf and Anders were the superstars of the first one, and a bunch of the Houston Aero guys that came over were stars of the second one. Rich Preston, Morris Lukowicz, Scott Campbell, Terry Ruskowski, all of whom will be at this one in Whistler, and as well as the Swedes. And so Jeff and I were sitting there saying, where could we go? If Vegas is going to be a tough sell, great sell for having people come to it, but tough sell if you're trying to organize an event where the rooms aren't going to cost $500 a night. And so we talked about various options in Canada. Winnipeg obviously was one of them because of the success in holding other events, but we felt that might make it too inclusive, and that it might make other teams that were involved and players from other teams that were involved not be as enthusiastic about coming, thinking that it might be a Winnipeg dominated event. And so then that narrowed down the options. We decided it couldn't be one of the cities that came into the league, Quebec, Winnipeg, or Edmonton. So then you look at someplace that's close to the US border that makes it easy for travel. And we had a very successful 25th reunion in Windsor because of the proximity to Toronto and Detroit, and gave that some thought, but they don't have the hotel space to accommodate us at that time of any time of the year. Niagara Falls was the only other option as a resort location, close to Buffalo, close to Toronto. Once again, not enough hotel space. And so I threw out Whistler, not thinking I'd get the reaction that I did from Jeff, who I trust is so knowledgeable on these type of events. And he almost tripped over himself. I said, well, I do have one good friend there that might be able to help. And that night, in the middle of summer, I phoned Tim Kochel and said, Timmy, you're the new coordinator in the city, and we're having the event in Whistler. And from that minute on, we've had nothing but support from everybody in this city. And great support when we started spreading the word to the players. And, even though we know it's a 90-minute trek from Vancouver Airport, once you get past the Lionsgate Bridge and start seeing the scenery on the way here, that 90 minutes goes by in about 10 minutes. And once you get here, you realize that you're basically in Disney World for adults. Yeah. It's like walking distance to everything. There's thousands of things to see and do. Players will likely bring their wives. And think about it. These guys are now in their 60s, 70s, and early 80s. That means their children who are in their 50s probably want to come and see what dad did. And their grandchildren who are in their 30s or 20s want to come see what grandpa did.
Ouch.
The great grandkids want to come and see. So all of a sudden, we've got to find events for all those people, which we have committees that are doing, looking after what the wives can do, looking after what the kids can do.
What a great.
All kinds of events that make it a family-oriented event, not just a nostalgia visit for all the guys that will trade stories. And you can imagine the stories that will be told, not just the superstar stories, not just the ones that Mark and Marty and Tardif and Cloutier and Serge Bernier and Richard Brodeur, can tell, and Mahovlich and Henderson and Mark and Marty and the great Jets, Ulf and Anders. Think of the guys that were just third and fourth liners. They probably have better stories than the superstars. Yeah. They were fighting every day just to stay in the lineup. Yeah. And some of the stories, they can tell are just going to be incredible. And the opportunity that fans will have to interact with these players, mingle with these players, go into breakout sessions and talk one-on-one with them. It's very unique, and probably something that's that's never been done. And, it's not very often you pass 50 years,
Yes.
with the same, with the same group of guys. Thankfully, I've passed the same number of years with my wife, who's put up
Yeah.
with me for 50 years.
I saw that today. That was
Yeah, you saw.
incredible that she has to put up with you. Hey, listen, Peter, obviously, as we wrap this up, I just want to say thank you to you, but who else do you want to thank for making today such a success? I know that it takes a lot of people, it takes a village, and this certainly is a village that has a lot of action. I got to meet Tim. He is a go-getter. There's no question. He's going to make it happen. Who else would you like to thank?
Well, I mean, our group out of Vancouver that is, going to be so supportive includes Tom Pedricks, who you met today,
Yes.
one of the most incredible graphic artists in the world, and he's on our executive committee along with Greg and myself, and James Smith. Now, James Smith came to the table because he knew Greg from playing some old timers hockey with him or something. Turns out he has an incredible tie to the WHA. James, by the way, runs one of the most successful law firms in Vancouver. His dad was Al Smith, the goalie for 4 years of the Hartford Whalers, and later the Toronto Maple Leafs for a bit, and passed away sadly. But James is very involved. His mother is the head of the Hartford Whalers Alumni Association.
Oh,
So
that's great.
involved. In Winnipeg, Perry Miller is on board. Organizing the group out of there, Morris Lukowicz in Calgary, Rich Preston in Calgary, Terry Ruskowski down in Houston, Eddie Mio in Detroit is trying to organize the Indianapolis crowd. Mark and Marty are trying to help the Houston and New England group get together. Richard Brodeur on the island is helping with the Quebec alumni. Lyle Moffat, who's on the island. One of the greatest broadcasters that ever lived, and one of my mentors at CTV, Bernie Pascal, the original broadcaster of the Vancouver Blazers, in the Vancouver Sports Hall of Fame, in the Broadcast Hall of Fame, did the Olympics with us in Sarajevo, a legend in the broadcast industry. He's involved in the Vancouver group that's organizing. Alex Tidy from the San Diego Mariners, another one, BJ McDonald from from the Edmonton Oilers, and Al Hamilton, of course, one of the original Edmonton Oilers, who runs the Alumni Association in Edmonton, also on board and helping out. So,
and a wonderful guy. He's
an amazing group of guys, and just so many people who have gone out of their way. And then the one guy that we gotta like and help out is or thank very much for helping us out is Nick Vaccaro. Now you've never heard of Nick Vaccaro.
I have not.
Dr. Nick Vaccaro, a very good friend of mine from Niagara Falls. Back in 2003, Nick piloted a group that included Bobby Hull and myself in trying to revive the WHA, another major professional hockey league. This was when it looked like the NHL was headed for a lockout or a strike. And so it was one of those situations where, because of that, Nick trademarked the original WHA logos and the words WHA and World Hockey Association in both the United States and Canada. And for some reasons, even though that event never happened because of the fact that the NHL settled their strike, he kept those trademarks, and he was kind enough to assign to us those trademarks. So we legally have the only trademark now for using the terms WHA, World Hockey Association, or the logos. So, guys like that who stepped up, Scotty McVicker, who just drove up today, as you know, as we talked about, from the island, those kind of guys that help out. And, one of the things we haven't mentioned yet is the Legacy Foundation. And at the gala dinner, we will be honoring 5 individuals. You could honor 500. No, maybe not 500. You could honor 50, but obviously time constraints don't allow that. So as of right now, our executive committee has determined that, at least for now, and I think this will be final, we will be honoring the legendary Gordie Howe, Mark and Marty have said they will both try to be there. For sure, one will be there to introduce the tribute to their dad.
Wow.
Bobby Hull will be honored, and Anders and Ulf have said that they will be there to read the introduction in honoring Bobby. Andre Lacroix, the leading scorer in the history of the WHA, will be there. Alton White, the first black player to play in the WHA, will be honored. And we're talking to Bill Riley and Ray Neufeld about being
Amazing.
the person who introduces them. And the late, great Dennis Murphy, who started it all, who had the vision. Sadly, he passed away just months ago. I had the chance to speak with him via FaceTime 2 days before he passed. He was still talking about starting a new roller hockey league. And thankfully, my great friend, Dr. Elliot Hamoff in Los Angeles, an incredible documentarian, taped an interview with Dennis for this event days before he passed.
Wonderful.
So Dr. Hamoff and will be there at the gala dinner to introduce the tribute to Dennis Murphy. So I think that it's going to be a very nostalgic weekend. It's going to have stories that are unbelievable to be told, and hopefully to be somehow saved on videotape so others can either read about them or hear them. That's another thing. When you say read about them, authors Jeff Kirbyson, Norm Beaudin is just putting out a new book in a couple of weeks. I hear the foreword is spectacular because I wrote it.
Cheap plug.
Jeff Kirbyson has 2 best-selling books about hockey, including one exclusively about the hotline in the WHA. And of course, Eddie Willis, who wrote the Rebel League years ago, lives in Vancouver. He'll be here with his book. It's one of the greatest tributes to the World Hockey Association ever written. So there's just so many of those things that at the memorabilia show, all the DVD collections, all the old video, 50-year-old video that we'll be putting together. It's going to be pretty spectacular by the time it's finished.
Well, Peter Young, I can't thank you, former WHA play-by-play announcer and now the director of the World Hockey Alliance. You have done an amazing job. You got a great crew of people, obviously with Greg Beaudin and his family, and of course all the people I met today, the Longhorn Saloon. Lisa, I want to do a shout out for her. She really helped us make that happen. So Peter, congratulations. I look forward to being a part of this. I know over the next 6 to 8 months, you and I will be interviewing a lot of the guys that have been with the NHL, maybe some of the wives, some of the people that are behind the scenes, because as you mentioned, their stories are incredible. Ladies and gentlemen, Peter Young.
Thank you, Gouche. See you later.
Thanks,
You're buying,
buddy.
by the way.
I will. McDonald coupons. Hey, what an incredible day I've had. I'm here. I was at the Hockey Hall of Fame induction weekend, jumped on a flight, got picked up by Greg Beaudin, drove in a car all the way up here with Tom and, of course, Norm Beaudin. And here we are out on a balcony. You can see my breath now. It is cold, and I will be doing the walk tomorrow. I think I'll just be walking over to the local Tim Hortons, get a coffee. You've been watching right here live from Whistler, the Gouche, and I you know what? I'm tongue-tied now that I think of it. I can't even tell you how excited I am to be honored to be involved with this great event. It's going to happen in October 2022. You're going to see on my show and many other shows all the details that are coming out. Over the next couple of weeks, we will be getting you to understand to buy a ticket. Get a ticket because they're going to go quick. You've been watching this Gouche Live, brought to you by those good people at the Hockey News, Sports Illustrated, and of course, Fired Up Network. Good night.
You've been listening to Gouche Live with your host, Kerry Goulet, better known as The Gouche, brought to you by the Hockey News and Sports Illustrated.